had they made it into a movie, this scene would have been rated R easily if they did it right, in my opinion. It's weird, guys. I'll be honest. Every once in a while, I'm sitting there reading a Goosebump book thinking, oh, this one's pretty tame. It's not too bad. Pretty cheesy, pretty 90s corny. And the next thing you know, someone's getting their face ripped off in a kid's horror book. It is something else, and it really is not that big of a surprise when a lot of these books have covers that look like this. Yeah. What is up, everyone? I am the Midnight Chronicler. Welcome to the second iteration of this 5 disturbing scenes I found in Goosebump books. I love making these videos. They're a ton of fun. It's so fun to kind of go back and relive the nostalgia of these books and realize, wow, some of them are a little bit more kind of risky and hardcore and fun to read than you would have even thought. Yes, they're kids' books that kind of have very simple plots. The characters are not always very in-depth, but you still get a fun plot every now and again with a scene that really makes you cringe even as an adult, making you think, wow, the 90s were some pretty crazy times. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. I cannot wait to talk to you guys about this. It has been way too long. Let's get into it, guys. Starting off with number 5. This is a scene that I'd like to call Death by Rats. And this is from Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, guys. This is book number 11 in Goosebumps Series 2000. And like I've said before, Series 2000, I think, is a much more darker and, again, maybe edgier version of the original Goosebumps series to me. I really, really love Series 2000, and there's some really great stuff there. Anyways, Graveyard Ghouls basically follows a kid named Spencer. He's misunderstood, doesn't have a ton of friends, and basically in this story, he is at a graveyard, and he gets his body taken over, possessed basically by a demon, basically graveyard ghoul run wild, and he starts an adventure to get his body back. But basically in this scene, a swarm of rats attack a poor creature that happens in this book on page number 58. It's right before the end of a chapter. Aren't all these crazy scenes right before the end of a chapter in Goosebumps books, guys? Anyways, as I stared in horror, I saw a rabbit scamper out from behind a tombstone. The rats rushed forward. The rabbit rose on its hind legs, froze in fear. A tidal wave of coarse, gray fur surged over the poor creature. It disappeared under the sea of gray. It happened so fast. The rats scattered, busily gnawing on their meal of tender, juicy meat. In seconds, very little was left of the rabbit. Bits of muscle, a puddle of blood, bones picked clean. I stared at the stampeding rats, sickened at the sight, sickened and desperate. I stared at the rats. I knew what I had to do. This book is just nuts the whole way through, guys. And actually, obviously, you can kind of tell he is going to go and possess one of the rats to find his body and take it back. Pretty insane for, like I said, a kid's novella. And I really had a good time with this one, guys. It has a really underrated antagonist, too, if I could say. And yeah, that is Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, guys. Again, that is number 11 in Goosebumps Series 2000. It's a very solid Goosebump book, and I quite enjoyed it. Moving right along, guys. Number 4, I'm calling this scene Sarah's Last Swim. Now, this is from The Curse of Camp Cold Lake, if you guys have ever read this one. This is actually 56 in the original, not Series 2000, the original Goosebumps series. And guys, as a quick side note, I really kind of think that as R.L. Stine got further and further into the series, the original series actually ended with 62, I think he got a little bit more effort energy whenever he was writing these books. Some of the plots get really crazy. Some of the themes that get tackled are sort of adult. It's really kind of sad. I mean, Sarah is a pretty depressing protagonist in this book. She's at this summer camp with her brother. She's not really being treated very nicely. She's misunderstood. She doesn't really know how to basically socialize. And in a fit of sadness and feeling like an outcast, Sarah decides to ultimately drown herself to get the attention of potential friends at this camp. Yeah, what? Maybe a kid wouldn't understand reading this, but as an adult, it really kind of hits you in the feels. This is on page 50. I can probably stay underwater for 2 or 3 minutes, long enough to scare everyone to death. Everyone will panic. Everyone will feel sorry for how mean they were to me. I'll get a new start. After my close call in the lake, everyone in camp will want to be nice to me. Everyone will want to be my buddy. So, here goes. I took one last look at all the laughing, shouting swimmers. Then I sucked in the biggest breath I'd ever taken and plunged down to the bottom of the lake. Her chest starts to hurt. She starts to panic and freak out. The book kind of spirals from there. She goes this kind of Silent Hill / upside down version of the summer camp that she's at. Pretty cool stuff, pretty dark stuff. I actually have a review for this book, guys, up on the channel. I've called this the darkest tale in Goosebumps, and I still kind of stand by that because it really tackles, self-harm in a way, and it's something that I don't know if kids should necessarily read, but we did. It was the 90s, times were different, and this is a very, very disturbing and good Goosebump book. Number 3, guys, let's leave some of the depression behind and get to a gory and fun scene. This is from Wanted: The Haunted Mask, and this scene is one that I'm calling Face Off. And if you guys are familiar with Breaking Bad, you might know where I'm going with this scene. So basically, I'll just say Carly Beth never had to go through this. The beginning of this book, guys, is the best opening 30 pages I've read in a Goosebump book, period. Definitely the most disturbing portion of this entire book, and had they made it into a movie, this scene would have been rated R easily if they did it right, in my opinion. We're kind of following a man named William. It's like the 1700s or 1800s, it's way back, and he's basically being attacked by the haunted mask, and he's wrestling with it. It latches itself onto his face and won't let go, and this happens on page 28. Grasping it tightly, he stumbled up the stairs to the attic. Blood flowed down his forehead. It pooled in William's eyes and made it hard to see. He knew he didn't have much time. He dropped to his knees again. His hands fumbled over an old trunk against the attic wall. The trunk was black with gold decoration and a gold latch on the front. William flung open the lid. He peered inside. The large chest was filled with old costumes and masks. Must hide the mask, he murmured, feeling himself grow weak. He used every bit of his remaining strength to shove the trunk back against the wall. Then, I must find a place to die. Even after I'm dead, I will keep up my watch. Death will not stop me. I will stay in this closet and do my best to keep any innocent victims from the evil of the haunted mask. And guys, if that wasn't bad enough, this happens at the end, which involves his dog, Hansel. The last sounds that William heard were the quiet whimpers of Hansel, just outside the closet door. Oh my god. So not only is the haunted mask eating this guy's face, R.L. Stine pulls the, pet card and basically makes us feel terrible for the dog too, who's just sitting there kind of waiting for his buddy to be okay. And, makes you wonder, does Hansel sit outside there and does he pass away too because he's waiting so long? It is just kind of a very epic and violent and just all over the place beginning to this book, and it was such a cool intro, and I really enjoyed this book, guys. I gotta say, pick this up if you want a really solid haunted mask tale. Moving right on to number 2, guys, I'm calling this one the Not So Happy Tooth Game. This is from Goosebumps Series 2000. This is number 13, and it is Return to Horrorland. My goodness, guys, we all hate the dentist, and R.L. Stine takes full advantage of that in this disturbing scene. The Morris family, who is kind of the son and the daughter, brother, sister duo that go into Horrorland in this book. They're accompanied by their little friend Clay, who might be one of the dumbest characters in Goosebumps because no one forces Clay to go to Horrorland except himself because he has nothing else better to do, I guess. But hey, so they're at Horrorland, they're riding rides again, or basically surviving the rides, and they stumble across one of the rides that is dressed up to look like a dentist's office. Why that would have been appealing to them, I have no idea, but the following happens, guys, when they stumble into the ride, which the ride is named the Happy Tooth Game. They grip their drills in huge hairy paws, lowered their bulky bodies over their screaming, helpless patients. "You broke my tooth," a boy wailed, halfway down the long row of chairs. "You broke it. Help me, someone," another cry from nearby. "He's drilling into my tongue." I turned my eyes away. My stomach churned. 3 big, white uniform monsters came lumbering towards us. "These guards will take you to your dentist. Good luck." "No, please," I pleaded. "We changed our minds," Luke cried. "Isn't this supposed to be a game?" Clay wailed. The guards grabbed us roughly in their fur-covered paws. We twisted and squirmed, but they were too strong for us. They dragged us down their long row of screaming, crying kids. "You broke all my teeth," a boy wailed. "Help me," a girl cried as the monster dentist lowered his drill to her face. She clamped her mouth shut and twisted her head away from him. "Open up, or I'll drill through your lips," the dentist growled. I begged as the guard strapped me into a dentist chair near the end of the row. Water gurgled and the white spit sank beside me. I glanced down and saw dark blood stains on the side of the sink. That was crazy, guys. This scene just kind of perfectly hit all the notes of, being afraid of the dentist, being afraid of the doctor. Really cool stuff that I think kids are rightly afraid of from time to time. And guys, something else I wanted to mention about Return to Horrorland. This book does something pretty cool. I really liked how they had so many little Easter eggs in it from other Goosebumps books. For example, guys, in the very beginning, Evan from Monster Blood is being interviewed on TV. Then later on, we see Amazo from Bad Hair Day. He's the magician. He shows up. Just some really cool stuff from R.L. Stine. Horrorland should be the place where he, brings all of his creations together. Pretty solid book. I liked it. I think it had some pretty gnarly scenes in it, not least of which is the Happy Tooth game, which made me cringe. Finally, number 1, guys, this is from a book that a lot of you actually recommended to me, and I'm so thankful that you did, because this book was just total madness from beginning to end. That is, of course, I Live in Your Basement. This is number 61 of the original Goosebumps series, guys. And man, this book is just a trip. It's like a Twilight Zone / Black Mirror version of a Goosebump episode where you aren't really sure if reality is happening to the protagonist or if he's just imagining it. Because in this book, Marco, the main kid, basically suffers a head injury. And from there on, you can't tell if what's happening is real, if it's in his head, or if it's a mix of the two, what's going on. In the middle of all this, he's basically getting these random messages and whispers and phone calls from someone claiming to live in Marco's basement. And so in this scene, him and Gwenny decide to go down into the basement to investigate. This book decides to basically slap you in your face and absolutely make your insides churn with this scene. "I'll show you something," Gwenny said. She placed both hands on the wooden banister. Then she opened her mouth. Wider. Her mouth stretched open, wider, until the rest of her face disappeared behind her open mouth. Her tongue plopped heavily over her chin. Something pink and glistening wet rolled from the gaping mouth. At first, I thought she had a big gob of bubble gum in there, but as the pink gunk flowed up from her throat, the mouth pulled open even further, and her head disappeared behind it. I saw yellow organs clinging to the glistening pink flesh. Something long and gray twisted out of her mouth, wrapped around itself. Dark purple lungs slid over the drooping tongue, and then her heart, so red, so startlingly red, plopped from her open mouth, throbbing. I uttered a long moan of horror. I couldn't turn away, couldn't take my eyes off Gwenny as her insides poured from her mouth. I stood there and stared in amazement and cold horror at the pulsing, quivering organs clinging to the oozing pink flesh. Stood there watching Gwenny until she had turned completely inside out, and then I opened my mouth in an endless scream. What is going on in this scene, guys? It is just incredible. For a Goosebumps book, man, I just gotta say, this is everything that Goosebumps should be. Just the insanity, the imagery, the interesting back and forth plot. Guys, this is the first Goosebumps book I can remember in a while where, as I read it, I really couldn't tell what was going on. I couldn't really tell what the twist or what the ending would be. I love that. I love when a Goosebumps book surprises me and delights me like that. And man, the Inside Out scene was just a mind blower for me. And yeah, I'll tell you what it is. It's exactly what makes great Goosebumps. That was why I read these books, for scenes that would make even the most staunch horror reader go, ew, what the heck? I really wish R.L. Stine leaned more into the strategy for his books, because I think that's where he's at his best. When he mixes gross out horror with extraterrestrial, it's that perfect Goosebump blend in my opinion, and that is my number 1. But hey, that's it for now, guys. I love talking about this stuff with you, and I hope you guys enjoyed too. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let's talk all things books. Until next time, everyone, I'm the Midnight Chronicler. Keep reading. We'll talk to you soon.